My name is Scott Challoner, and you are listening to the Leaders Council podcast for the people who run the country and the people who keep the country running. As regular listeners of this show will know, part of our mission here at the Leaders Council is to bring you a variety of distinct perspectives on leadership and current affairs. And to this end, we welcome Helen Kimber, founder of Hero Lifestyle, onto today's programme. Helen, pleasure welcoming you on, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, Scott.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure having you, Helen. Now, just for those viewers that might not be familiar with Helen and what she does, Hero Lifestyle is an award-winning nutrition and wellbeing business that helps clients achieve optimal health and wellbeing. Obviously, that's only kind of a rough outline of what you do, Helen. So how do you sort of go about kind of achieving those aims in the day-to-day? What is it that your business fundamentally does?
Okay, well, Hero Lifestyle is, I call it maybe a one-stop shop with regards to working with individuals or businesses, helping them achieve optimal health by three different modalities. One is nutrition, and not just healthy eating, really looking at the fundamentals of deep down functional nutrition with regards to how this amazing machine called the human body can achieve optimal health by the fuel that we call food that we feed it with or that we don't feed it with, which gives us bad health. And then also there's the other modalities, exercise, fitness, etc. And I also work with clients with yoga. I've practiced yoga for 30 years, taught it for about 18, and I bring yoga into my client consultations and my workshops quite regularly. Not just the yoga, as we call it, asanas, which are the shapes that you make when you practice yoga, but all to do with the breath work, the mindfulness, and the lifestyle of yoga.
Yeah, so it's actually quite far-reaching, isn't it, when you think about it? And what I wanted to sort of ask you about as well is that the last couple of years that we've had with, the pandemic, that sort of affected businesses across all sorts of industries, but especially for somebody like yourself who's sort of, very, very health-focused. We've kind of really become more mindful of our physical and mental health during COVID. So I suppose that's come with a lot of opportunities for you, but you've had to balance that out with, the challenges of lockdown and the effect that has on well-being. So how was it sort of managing through the COVID period sort of for you from a business perspective?
It's really fascinating. My business was only a year old, and my business model had quickly pivoted and changed. So I'd run a nutrition clinic at a spa hotel, and I was working with people, going to visit them in their homes and what have you. And then suddenly we had lockdown, and I went on a huge learning curve, and suddenly discovered this phenomena called Zoom. And started to work with my clients online, and so providing nutritional consultations, providing workshops and seminars, businesses who were very concerned about their employees' well-being, and then also fitness sessions via my little studio. This is just my own studio. Pat myself at home in. So that's really quite quickly.
Yeah, it certainly seems that you were able to sort of adapt quite well to the challenge of the pandemic by kind of taking the business online. And would you say as well that that's kind of almost opened the business up to a broader audience in a way?
Yes, absolutely. Particularly with like my nutrition consultation, when working with the clinic. So obviously people would travel. I'm just going to say, for example, a maximum of 40 minutes to working with clients in America, Europe, etc. And then even with things like my nutrition and that sort of workshops and seminars, providing those for businesses for their employees online. Businesses who have employees in all different countries could tap in, and so obviously looking at the time differences and what have you. But I've delivered seminars to Melbourne, Miami, to name but a couple, as well as in the UK. So it's really opened up the business, but it also opened up my eyes to realise that actually you can really sort of spread out and it's made the world a smaller place, I think.
It has, hasn't it? And I suppose one of the things that the people that you work with have had access to is a regular blog that you've been putting together as well that talks about how to kind of manage your stress levels as well. And I suppose that for anybody in kind of like, a crisis situation like a pandemic, be they sort of a regular person, the employee of a business, or like a big CEO or something, I think we can all kind of take away something from that, because in a situation like a pandemic where, things are on top of you, your mental health might not be the best, you're very isolated as an individual, stress and, the impact that all has on mental well-being, it can take its toll. So without sort of giving kind of too much away as to, what the blog contains, because we want people to actually go and read it, what kind of key things are in there from your point of view to try and help people kind of, manage stress and manage their mental well-being?
Okay, well, first of all, it would be attentive to the listeners, but I write lots of blogs about all different things to do with well-being, and stress is one of the key ones. As someone who has practiced yoga for many years, and I'm very interested with regards to breath work and meditation and mindfulness, and I do find it quite fascinating that when look at mental health and well-being, we always talk about being outside with nature and going on a walk and having a break from your laptop, etc., etc. But I also find it fascinating that very little is said about the first thing that is absolutely most important to the nutritionist, is what we put into our body. The effect of a chronic overuse has a profound effect on the ability on sort of eliminating key nutrients. And so if we are stressed, our body food and use up key nutrients like vitamin C, the B vitamins, etc. And I think the well-being, the mental health and well-being is skewed to being more focused on what we do with regards to managing movement and breath work and what have you, rather than what we eat. And what we eat is as important, if not more important, because, for example, if you have a poor diet and your gut bacteria is out of balance, we call that the gut microbiome, and if the microbiome is a beneficial bacteria, that has a profound effect on the levels of serotonin, which, as you're probably aware, Scott, is what we call the happy neurotransmitter in the brain. So if you are stressed and you don't eat well, and you have a poor diet, if you have what we call gut dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of gut bacteria, no matter how much breath work and how much hugging trees and walking in nature you do, your serotonin levels could still be quite poor. So by looking at the functional nutrition, looking at your gut health, that can have a massive impact positively on helping you achieve better mental health and well-being.
So it's just about, isn't it, the food that we're eating, as well as obviously, the activities that we're doing, basically. And I think, we are a lot more aware of our physical and our mental health as a direct result of COVID. The government's been on a massive sort of health campaign to try and get people eating healthily, exercising and, bringing their weight down and trying to sort of promote good health. And I suppose that in the aftermath of that, for the likes of yourselves, I suppose there are a great many opportunities that have emerged from COVID, despite the tragedy. And it's just about now, keeping sort of people's mental health and well-being in check and making sure that the lifestyles they're leading are healthy, and that, the awareness is there that everything is tied to, what you're actually putting into your body.
Yeah. And it's a whole minefield as well with regards to, the government trying to encourage people to eat healthily and what have you. But there's a massive gap in people's knowledge and awareness of what the fuel that we call food does or doesn't do when we put it into our bodies. And telling people to reduce calories and cut down in order to lose weight in X number of weeks is putting them on a diet. Diets don't work. The one thing I don't do when I work with my clients is talk to them about how much a calorie content of a food is, and weight is just a small part of what I deal with. I believe, Scott, calories, the amount of kilograms or pounds you weigh, they're made up figures by human beings to make other human beings feel really inadequate and miserable.
Yeah, it's like I say, that a lot of them seem to be kind of like arbitrary constructs, don't they? People become very, very obsessed by, sort of calorie intake and their weight, don't they? And they come to the point where, they're measuring the sort of their weight every single day. And it gets to the point where that becomes itself unhealthy, doesn't it? You're trying to obviously change your lifestyle, and it becomes almost obsessive. And I think as well, lifestyle is a key word there. I mean, it's like you talked about earlier, the word diet not being kind of like the right word to describe this, because diets don't work. It's not a diet change. It is fundamentally a lifestyle change, isn't it, when it comes to being healthy like this?
Yeah. And I think it's looking at the bigger picture, is looking at movement, looking at mindset, looking at the quality of the food that you put into this amazing machine called the human body that we've just, in my opinion, have been loaned for a period of time. And it's a shame that we haven't got graphics that we can use on this podcast, but there's an amazing graph from a meta-analysis looking at vitality. And if you think about how we age, and if you measure vitality from 0 to 100, let's say, and you look at how long we live for, if you we live for about, I'm just going to say on average about 85 years, and a lot of people, not just in this country but in developed countries, probably live about 15 of those years towards the end of their lives. So from 60, 65, 70 onwards in poor health. And if you look at where that poor health begins, in your early 20s, mid-20s potentially, if you get two people stood next to each other, one, lives a really good lifestyle. They eat well, they sleep well, etc. And then the other 20-odd-year-old lives the life of, I'm going to say, sex, drugs, and rock and roll for a prolonged period of time. Those two people, you stand them next to each other, they look pretty similar. There's not a lot in it. You get those two people when they're in their 40s, standing next to each other, and there is a massive difference. And it's all to do with what we do to the inside of our bodies, the way that I'm going to say we're overfed and undernourished in this country. We eat a lot of beige food.
And when we talk about the beige food, the stuff to avoid, what sorts of things are they that, we need to be very, very mindful of? Okay, so
in my opinion, beige food or anything beige, great for interior design, no good on a plate. So if you look at brightly coloured foods, eating a rainbow and making your plate as brightly coloured as possible with natural food, that is a really good, that's a sort of good start off. So your beige foods are a lot of your convenience foods, your manufactured foods, even to the degree of things like your breads and your pastas and your bagels and what have you. We eat a lot of those types of foods. because they're quick and they're easy.
Mm. They are, aren't they? I mean, I think given sort of the typical Great British lifestyle now, I think we're drawn to convenience, like you say, and because these foods are, you know, they're quick, they're fast, they're really, really easy to, you know, sort of whack a quick meal together, because we're constantly sort of, you know, maybe on the move in a bad way, you know, sort of rushing between sort of work meetings, that sort of thing. We haven't sort of sat down and kind of, you know, hit the reset button on this. And I suppose what the pandemic has done is it's kind of almost given us that opportunity, ironically, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. To take a little step back, and I think the pandemic, the lockdown, it had a profound positivity for lots of people who realised that they, you know, felt so much better when they went out and did a lot of exercise and what have you. And then on the other side of the coin, a lot of people had a negative effect and ended up drinking more and eating more convenience foods because they were in a bad place. But now that the pandemic is over, and I meet loads of business owners who are in poor health, I'm going to say due to self-neglect. And we hear so much about all this well-being and the investment that business owners and business leaders make in the latest technology. So they'll have a really good office chair, they'll have a really comfortable car, they'll have, you know, the latest phone, the latest tech that they invest a great deal in, or their companies invest a great deal in, but they don't or are unwilling to invest in their looking after their own well-being and acquiring the knowledge and the skills to look after those valuable assets.
And ironically, our health is probably our most valuable asset, isn't it? And that's the thing, you know, you should be looking after above all else.
And I do see a lot of people and have discussions with people who, you know, if you fail to provide the right tool to that amazing machine, your most valuable asset, then eventually things do start to break down. And as like it's reality, the older we get, the stronger the super glue we need to glue things back. You know, we're often with, like you just said, we're busy and we fail to look after our bodies, and it's slowly deprived. It doesn't suddenly happen very acutely. It's slow drip to it. And as we slowly deprive our bodies of what we need, we end up with these long-term chronic health conditions that take quite a long time to resolve or sometimes to relieve. So it's things like obesity and joint pain and in gastrointestinal symptoms that we then go to our GPs with and get a tablet that treats the symptom but not the underlying cause.
Yeah, so we're alleviating the symptom, but then it's about, you know, the lifestyle adjustment there, the looking after the well-being, the bringing work-life balance into your life to then deal with what's actually causing the issue, isn't it?
Yeah. And so looking at sort of nutrition as the foundation, and again, exercise is really, really important and what have you. However, you cannot out-exercise a bad diet. So, you know, if you go to the gym and then come, you know, if you have in fitness, there's a phrase called people are active couch potatoes, in the fact that they have a very sedentary job. They work out 20, 40 minutes maybe every evening or every day or 3 times a week. But the majority of the time, they are sedentary. And so they'll go to the gym and go, oh, great, I've just done a 40-minute HIIT session at the gym and sit and watch the TV for 3 hours.
And that ultimately isn't going to work for the better, is it? You need to be able to kind of integrate more into it.
And it's the long-term effect, the cumulative and long-term effect of that. And so looking at what's happening inside, looking at your gut health and your digestion and the way you eat. so many people eat their breakfast while checking emails. And I think that the working from home has been great for quality of life, but somewhere along the way, the breadth, if you work, a lot of people who work from home, and I see it, and I speak with people who practice it. They get up, they log on, they eat breakfast. They check emails while they're eating breakfast. So they're not actually focusing on what they're eating. They're just shoveling it in. Then lunch is similar. And then the evening meal is possibly sat watching catch-up TV.
And in reality, this isn't what we should be doing. I mean, it's like, I think when it comes to actually to put what you put into your body, I think full focus needs to be on that. And you do need to kind of take that time aside to, appreciate what it is that you're making for yourself or you're preparing for yourself, and then take the time to, consume that slowly, consciously, and then obviously get on with the rest of your day beyond that.
Yeah. And I've done a lot of work with Ayurvedic lifestyle. I've just, which is Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga. Mm-hmm. Or yoga is the sister science of Ayurveda, and it's a very, very ancient lifestyle practice. That's fascinating because lots of modern science suddenly discovers these amazing gems that Ayurveda has been talking about for thousands of years. But in Ayurvedic lifestyle, it's not just about what you eat, it's about how you eat, being very mindful, making sure that you chew your food, which is even smelling your food. That's the first part of a healthy digestive process. Loads of people just shovel it in and don't even chew it. And then we wonder why we've got indigestion.
That's what I mean. Everything has a consequence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And for anybody actually listening into this who is interested in finding out more about sort of the Ayurvedic lifestyle that you talked about there, Helen, does your website include some information on that? And that would be herolifestyle.co.uk. Yeah,
I don't go into massive information about the Ayurvedic lifestyle generally. I've written quite a lot of blogs that people can just go onto my website and have a read of. But if anybody wants to have a discussion personally with me, I always offer a half an hour complimentary discovery call with either individuals who want to speak with me, or if they are wanting work with their colleagues, all their employees, I'm more than willing to have a conversation with them. And again, it's a discovery call via my website.
Yeah, fantastic. And herolifestyle.co.uk, your website, isn't it? That would obviously be the port of call for that. Yeah, fantastic. So for any listeners tuning into this that, might be affected by any of the issues we've discussed, perfect port of call there for you if you did want to, go into this a little bit further, find out more and see what little changes could be made. Just before we actually wrap up now, Helen, given the, increased awareness that we have around our health as a result of the last couple of years that we've had, it'd be great to get an idea as to, what your hopes are moving forward in terms of your business and helping more people make that lifestyle change. And hopefully, like I say, what you'd like to have achieved by maybe this time next year in that mission.
Okay, so I'm at the moment doing quite a lot of work. I've written a 5-week course for the menopause. Prior to lockdown, the menopause is really in vogue at the moment, but it's always been around. People are talking about it a lot more. But prior to lockdown, even a couple of years prior to that, I was doing workshops and delivering seminars about the menopause, and it was not spoken about a great deal. And it's great now that it's come into the sort of forefront of people's information and interest. because it does affect a massive different situation. And so I'm asked quite often to deliver workshops and seminars to businesses with regards to the menopause. And I've written a 5-week course or a whole day workshop, which a few businesses have bought for their employees to work with, which is fantastic. I work on that a lot, but my passion is really just to try and support people as best I can, giving them the knowledge and the tools so that they can run with that baton and achieve real optimal health and well-being, not only in their work life, but it's, at the end of the day, why do we work so that we can have a really, really good life after work. And if you're really healthy, in my opinion, and you really treat this body well, and eat really well, and move really well, and exercise, and do whatever work to help support your body, your downtime will be even more rewarding.
I think that's exactly right. And I think that's the thing that we sometimes lose sight of, isn't it? That, our well-being has to come before work sometimes, and work is to support our health and well-being. And, it shouldn't come at the detriment of that. I think that's very true. And I think as we start to see, the picture emerging nationally over the next year or so, I think it would be great, actually, Helen, to maybe catch up and reassess the situation. And hopefully, we see some positive trajectory in this, and we see more people, becoming aware of that and making that lifestyle change.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I find it's amazing when people do have a light bulb moment and doesn't change their lifestyle. But very often it happens because they have a fright. And they're told, oh, this has happened, or they have an ECG, or they suddenly get really breathless and they're told, oh, you've got the onset of angina, or you're pre-diabetic, you weight. And I think people have suddenly start changing when they get told that, oh, if you don't do this, this might happen. And I think, for me, the ideal thing would be for people to forget that and think, you know what, I'm going to be really healthy and look after myself, so that comes as part of the equation.
Yeah, it's almost kind of, making the change before, you get that fright, isn't it? Before your health deteriorates to the point where that's necessary. I think that's very, very important and very, very right. Yeah. And like I say, hopefully more people obviously do, pick up on that message and do make that change. And for anybody tuning into this as well, I mean, like I say, hopefully, this has given you some motivation as well, and who might be affected. And it could help sort of turn your life around as well, because, well-being, the work-life balance, you've got to put that before all else. Helen, I've got to say, it's been an immense pleasure welcoming you onto the show today to talk about all of this, because it is so relevant at the moment. And by all means as well, do indeed take care and stay safe with all still going on in the world in the meantime. And hopefully, as I say, we can catch up in future on the show.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
It'd be absolutely fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, likewise as well, Helen, for your giving up your time to come and speak to us, because we couldn't do the work that we do without the likes of yourselves giving up your time to come and talk about what it is that you do in that message. So we are incredibly grateful for that. And I'm sure, of course, the listeners do share that sentiment as well. A reminder as well to everyone tuning in that if you did want to find out more about Helen and the work that she's doing, do visit herolifestyle.co.uk. And if you are a business owner or, the head of an organisation yourself, and you feel that you have, your own story to share with us here at the Leaders Council about the work that you do, then you too can apply to be on our programme to share that story via leaderscouncil.co.uk. Until next time, I've been your host, Scott Challoner, on today's Leaders Council podcast with guest Helen Kimber. Please take care and goodbye.